Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am the CHALL, and today Chall Chats, the latest from Doncaster Rovers, in a brand new edition of the DRFC Daily Reports. There hasn't been one for a long, long time. However, we are back with daily reports, and we'll be going through the latest news over the last few days. So we've got three main stories to talk about in this video. We've got James Maxwell's brand new contract. We've also got a couple of other contracts being offered in terms of new and agreed fresh terms, according to the manager Grant McGann. We also have an article around plans taking place ready to reduce the amount of injuries during pre-season with our new head of medical, David Rennie. So before we get started, make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so you never miss another YouTube video. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers and 500,000 views. Let's get there as soon as possible. And for now, guys, let's talk about everything going on involving Doncaster Rovers this week. So, first of all, we're going to go into the new contract that was accepted, signed, sealed, and delivered in the news reports in the last few days. James Maxwell, the star left back, has signed a brand new 2-year contract until the summer of 2026. Now, my thoughts on that, it was a deal that needed to be done. I was doubtful that it would be done. I was thinking he would have interest from elsewhere and that might entice him. However, for me, whether he had interest or not, I think it's good to see this player getting tied down. I think that James knows how much I rate him. You guys know how much I rate James Maxwell. I think he's a star-studded player. He's definitely the main guy in that position. For me, I think he has the pace, he has the mobility, he has the drive down that left-hand side. I think that James offers a lot going forward. He could track back and offer a lot defensively as well. I think him and Jamie Sterry have got those wings on lockdown at the back. And for me, I think this is a deal that need to be done. It's great to see this kind of deal wrapped up early. Get a new 2-year deal under his belt, get him tied down till the summer of 2026. And then when it gets to around when it gets to around summer 2025, going into January 2025, things like that, we can look at another new contract depending on the situation in the next 2 years. So this was a deal that needed to be done. I think it's a deal that should have been wrapped up a little bit earlier, but I'm glad that it's been done now anyway. Because for me, I think that it's one of those early ones where you want to get it done before the summer, begins, because you don't want that interest to start ramping up throughout the summer, and then he's out of contract, and then you've got the choice now between offering a new one or get a new deal elsewhere in a different team, which could be higher up. So to get Maxwell nailed down to another 2 years, obviously fantastic from our squad perspective. And for me, he starts in that position. I think him and Senior will keep swapping in and out in terms of who plays in that role. I think that Senior as well can adapt as the left side centre back of a back four. So if needs be, Senior can play in the left sided role of that back four and work with Maxwell. So, and that's only if we need to. So for me, I think that this is a wonderful deal. I think this is a wonderful transfer. I think it's exactly what we needed to do in terms of keeping that defensive line secure for next season. So the main kind of back four, which have been playing at this moment in time, Maxwell, Anderson, Wood, and Sterry. I think barring Wood, I think that they are all rest of them pretty much secured. So I think Wood, for me, Richard Wood, we could just try and get a 1-year extension if we can and try and get him on the books for another year. And then we've got that main back four nailed down. Then you've obviously got your other options. You've got Senior, you've got Olawu, who are still here next season and beyond next season, beyond this season. Obviously Faulkner's out of contract, Seaman's out of contract, but I see him going anyway for a permanent deal. I don't see him coming back at all. I think that we've seen Seaman in the Rovers shirt for the last time already. So there's numerous other players. Obviously Tom Nixon's on loan from Hull. Can we get a permanent deal for him? I think it should be interesting to see if we can or not. I would preferably like to look at that option. I think we have to keep in mind other people in that position as well to back up Sterry. But for me, I think that Nixon should be someone we should be keeping an eye on in terms of a permanent contract. We'll just see how he does between now and the rest of the season in terms of how much game time he gets. But Sterry playing it well at the minute, I think, stops him getting any chances in the team at the moment, if I'm being brutally honest. Obviously, we talked about Maxwell. Now we're going to talk about someone else who could be getting a new contract. In fact, two people who are set to be getting new contracts and they've agreed fresh terms. And that's according to the manager, Grant McCann. So the information is from the Free Press. And the information states as follows: the manager Grant McCann has revealed that a couple more unnamed players whose contracts are due to expire in June have agreed fresh terms. More announcements are likely in due course. So those announcements are likely at some point in the near future. So Grant McCann's official quote is: "There's a couple of others that have accepted, and we're working hard behind the scenes to try and create the group that we feel can help us next season and put us in a good place from the off." Really, there's a lot of players out of contract, but we don't want a huge turnaround where there's 20 players leaving and 20 new players coming in. It won't be like that. So when you look at who's else is out of contract, you've got Louis Jones, you've got Ben Bottomley. So first of all, the two goalkeepers. I think out of the two of them, if you're going to sign any one of those two goalkeepers onto a new contract, you might probably look at Jones because he's the more likely out of the two to get first team action out of him and Bottomley. But with Tyler impressing on loan, if we're looking into a permanent deal, do we see Lewis Jones get any kind of football with Lawler returning from injury and wanting a chance to prove himself again? Again, do you see Jones getting much football? I don't preferably see it. Apparently, Grant McCann said he's reacted well in training to Tyler getting his place and, playing more football ahead of him and etc. So, at least Jones is taking it well, and I can see the smile on his face still. He is taking the situation well. Do I see him playing much ahead of a returning Ian Lawler who needs a chance to come back and prove himself? And if we get Tyler or someone else on a permanent or loan deal, do I see him getting more football than them? I don't preferably see it. So unfortunately, I do see Lewis Jones leaving, in my opinion. On the basis of that, Ben Bottom was another one I could see leaving because I think with the under 18s, under 16s keepers improving week on week in the academy, I think we've got enough there to preferably give us a potential third choice. So I could see Bottomley leaving as well. When you look at the defence, Bobby Faulkner and Richard Wood and Charlie Seaman, I see Charlie Seaman leaving. I think Richard Wood should be given at least a 1 year extension based on his performances since he's come back. Bobby Faulkner is the future. I want to still give him a new deal. I'd give him a 1-2 year deal just to see what he does. I'd maybe look at 12 to 18 months, maybe, just to, with a potential 6 month extension or a potential further year extension, depending on certain situations. So we'll see what he's like coming back from injury, but we'll have to assess it when we get to that situation. When you look at the midfield, Biggins, Close, Rosette, Westbrook, and then De Grucci technically is an attacking midfielder. De Grucci hasn't played a lot of football this season with Rovers. He's been on loan quite a lot. Do I see him staying? I could see him getting more minutes further down the pyramid, in my opinion. And what I want is the best for Jack De Grucci because he's a lovely guy. I'm sure he has a bright future in the game. I just don't think Rovers is the right club in terms of getting the right amount of minutes to keep him progressing. So I could see him either signing a new contract, a short contract, and then going out on loan for the season again, or I could see him leave permanently to go and find regular first team football elsewhere, maybe National League North level, that kind of division, maybe Northern Premier League. Westbrook, he's one of the ones out of the two I could see being the two that have agreed fresh terms. When I look at the two that have agreed fresh terms in terms of the unnamed players, it should be, in my opinion, the two that have played the majority of minutes with McCann. And when I look at that, Westbrook is one of them. I think with him, though, with the potential clause in his contract to agree some kind of extension clause, I think that's what we've agreed with him, especially with his new injury and just him coming back. So I think that we've agreed an extension clause with Westbrook, in my personal prediction. And let him see out that extension, see how he does. If he's getting more minutes and looks like he's progressing and turned into the player that we saw before the injury, then we'll agree a better contract for him. So I think that's the risk-free scenario we'll take with Westbrook. Agree that extension in his contract clause, in the clause in his contract, and then take it from there. Rowe, I could see him extending, but not the first two to extend, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think he will take some time. I think he's one of those that will be at the end of the season. I could see him extending another year or so. I think him being in the squad, I think him with his experience, and I think him in the deeper side of the midfield, and also adaptable to playing that 10 role as well. I think that just him being involved in that squad in terms of his experience, his leadership, his sometimes he can come into games and really provide something to that game. So he is still useful in some games, and I think that, I don't think Rowe will start every week, and I think he might know that. But for me, I think that he's still useful and still a massive part of this squad in terms of his leadership and what he can do coming off the bench with his experience. So I could see him extending his contract by another year or two. I just don't see it being one of the more closer ones to agreeing. I could see that one being done at the end of the season. Biggins, I tell you what, since we switched to the 4-2-3-1, he's come along better than he has done. But when you look at the overall this season, I don't see him getting more minutes next season. I just think we'll bring in players ahead of him. So I could see him being one of the ones that leaves. But again, we don't know for sure. We have to just wait and see what happens. Molyneux and Taylor on the wings. John Taylor's a hard one because if it weren't for all the injuries, you'd see an absolutely amazing player in that division there. But it's very, very hard. And I think with the players that are going to come in, I think with Adelaide and potentially on a permanent deal, if the club are interested, which I'm sure they would be looking at his performances, and with no route back into Lincoln at this point, I'm sure that Adelaide can, would love to come here permanently. So there is a deal, in my opinion, to be had there. Molyneux, I think he's the second of the unnamed players that I could see signing as soon as possible. I think him and Westbrook will be the two we announce next, in my personal opinion. And I think Molyneux will be a potentially 2.5, 3 year deal. Taylor, like I said, without the injuries, there's a fantastic player there. So with Taylor, for me, I just don't see him staying. If I'm being perfectly honest, I just don't think he's going to get much football next season. I think there is a player there still, but I just don't think he's going to get much football with Molyneux ahead of him, with Adelaide ahead of him, with Hurst getting trying to use this opportunity to prove himself with to McCann as well. I hope Taylor can come back and prove himself, but I just don't know. I don't know at this point. It's hard because I love John Taylor as a person. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. I speak to him numerous times on and off the pitch, and he's just an amazing presence around the place. And if John Taylor wants to stay and the club wants him to stay and McCann wants him to stay, I think the ideal contract scenario for John Taylor would be a 12 to 18-month one, just to see what happens, keep him injury free for a long, long time, and see what a run of games does for him without injury, and then take it from there if you are going to offer him a contract. So that's what I would be doing. And then you got Lavery, who I don't see playing in the shirt again. So he's another one that will leave anyway. So there's when you look at the list there, there's Faulkner, there's Wood, there's Rowe, there's Westbrook, there's Molyneux, and there's maybe Taylor. So there's 5, 6 names there you could see signing up. Realistically, I think Lavery will go. I could see De Grucci going. I could see Close going. I know Close was a great player, but with me, I just don't. I think we've done all right without Close now. So I I personally feel like Close may need to move elsewhere for regular football. I just feel like with the formation we play at the moment, I think that look, don't get me wrong, I think Ben Close can come back and do the duties that Matthew Craig's been doing. And I think that Close can fill that role next season if he comes back at that point, which I think he might do. But I just don't know. I just don't. I've just got a gut feeling that Close will be one of the ones that goes. Same with Biggins, same with Seaman, and same with the two goalkeepers with Jones and Bottomley. I think Bottomley more than Jones, but I could see Jones going as well. But that's just my prediction at this stage. Situations can change. You know, personal choices can change, and we just take it from there, really. And to the players that I said I could see going, it's nothing against them personally. I just think for regular game time and to get their careers back on track, whether you're injury ridden or out, if you need more regular game time and you need it on a more permanent basis, I'm not saying these guys should be leaving because they're not good enough. I'm saying these guys should leave because they need regular game time elsewhere. Um, Finally, then, we're going to go into the plans in place for next season. So McCann wants a relatively stress-free pre-season, I think it's fair to say. I think a clutch of players missing large periods of pre-season of the summer was a massive step in the wrong direction in terms of getting off on the right off on the right track. But there is a plan in place, according to McCann, to rectify that, and it involves the new head of medical, David Rennie. And with the situation clearing up, McCann says the appointment of David Rennie will prove crucial to changing their look when it comes to players reporting back in the summer ahead of next season. So McCann came out to Donny Free Press and said what we're looking forward to really is the break and making sure players get onto their own plans. We didn't start preseason right, they felt last year. A lot of big players were missing for large chunks of preseason, which hindered us in terms of their start. They have to make sure that they are right, get it right next time, and apparently they will. It's a big reason they hired David Rennie in terms of his experience in putting programs together for players so that we can come back in the summer and hit the ground running. So, and you know what? I'll mention that again with the new head of medical, David Rennie. I think that he is the right guy to go forward in terms of who we need to be bringing in that department to take that medical list, rip it up, start afresh, clean slate, make sure there's no reoccurrences. We are going to have a couple on the injury books for the summer. I think Close will be there whether he stays or goes. Miller as well in his last year, he's going to be on the books till January. So Miller's going to be on the training room quite a bit. We know Taylor might end up being there for the start of pre-season maybe. So I'm hoping Taylor comes back sooner than the end of the season, but we just don't know at this point. So for me, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens in terms of injury list and who's going to be on the injury list at the start of pre-season, who's going to still be on there, who could be on there between now and the end of the season in terms of any new injuries, fresh reoccurrences, etc. We know Westbrook's just coming back, so we have to take it simple with him. We know that Senior's had injury problems a couple of times this season, so we have to keep an eye on him. We have to keep an eye on numerous players that have had injuries this season, make sure they don't have any recurrences coming back. So it's very, very important for the club to have that plan in place and to have that positional awareness in terms of off the pitch to make sure they know who they're taking into pre-season, any pre-contracts for new players so they can add to the books for the start of pre-season. Obviously, pre-season friendly is going to be very, very important this season. Who we come up against, who do we develop against? Because it's not just all about the results in pre-season. It's about how we develop. It's about how we gel with the new faces, how the old faces gel with the new faces, how the faces coming back gel with the squad from last season, the end of this season. So it's very, very important with pre-season, and I've got full confidence in David Rennie for his with the programs he's going to put in place. We spoke about David Rennie. He's got that experience for 2 decades with Leicester, being part of that Premier League title-winning squad, Championship, League One. He's worked at different levels of the game. He's worked in non-league with Curzon Ashton, worked with Bristol City, and he's got a vast array of experience. He knows what he needs to do. It isn't going to be a quick fix. We know it was going to take 12 to 18 months, and within 6 months of him coming in, or within the first few months of him coming in, he has nearly pretty much cleared that injury books list, barring 3 or 4 players, and it's 3 or 4. And I think maybe one of those players were involved in that squad for the majority time, 1 or 2. So, to have 3 or 4 on the books now compared to loads before, I think is a massive, massive positive, especially in the short period of time that David Rennie's been here so far. Again, I did say to people, take time with it. We have done, and look at the results. Players are coming back. They're looking fitter. The squad's looking better, and we're in a better position as well for going into next season. So, you know, I've got full confidence in the club and the staff for the plans they're putting in place. So, there we go, guys. Thank you very, very much for watching your DRFC daily reports this morning. It was a very early one this morning. So please make sure you stay tuned for more videos coming up. We'll try and get a preview out for the Crawley game on Thursday. We'll try and do a review of that game on the Friday or the Saturday. And also, just to say as well, massive, massive best wishes to 2 members of the Club Doncaster staff that are leaving this season. Matt Hawkhead, the kit manager, and John Warburton, the commercial director, I believe his role is. So both John and Matt, wonderful guys to speak to on the day. Massive best wishes. Good luck for the future. I am the CHALL, and ta for now.